Hey everybody, Bandicoot Commando here, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Pac Man World 3. Last time, we beat the game. We beat the story. We did the final level, the Shadow Temple. We defeated Irwin. We saved Pac Land, Pac World, and the Spectral Realm, and as I like to say, the Namco universe as a whole. Because why not? So today, I'm going to show off the museum and also explain about the game's development as well, or at least the part that involves Don Bluth. So let's go to the museum. Welcome to the museum, everyone. Love this classic poster of classic Pac-Man here. So keep in mind, this came out on the game's 25th anniversary, or the series, I should say, so yeah, a lot of interesting things. This is if you want to play the one and only, the classic Pac-Man. But we'll get to that later. Here is where the card collection is. The Spectral Zenith. Yeah, the cards, the construction worker, that's his name. The Ancient Defender, the Spectral Fiend, the Sitterling, Pat Doc Chain Crystal, Mutonians, Lummox, yeah, those are the big guys' names. I just kept calling them big guys. Pac Jr., my boy. Pac-Man himself. The Mech Lummox. Bombatrons, the Misses, the Spectral Sneaker. I guess those are the green ghosts. The first boss, Irwin, and boss 2, final boss, the Spectral Spitter. What's with their designs? Is this like concept art of what they look like? Because they do not have this kind of looking design in the final with the way their bodies appear. The spike arm, that's what they're called, armalopes. A propaganda poster, a gyrotron, an armalope, another propaganda poster, the Shadow Temple, the Boneyard, Gogeka Central. Yeah, this is just where you can view models and other little things in regards to the levels, and concept art as well, if I got more of the cards. Tonk Man! Not really. Just a different version of Tonk Man. Yep, see, you can get concept art here if you can collect the cards, and more importantly, I believe, get all the fruits and all the statues, and beat all the mazes. The Spectral Cliffs, the Veil, and that's it. Alright. This is I believe this is basically a small interview with Pac-Man creator. I won't show the whole thing, I'm just going to show a little bit of it.
Pac Man のゲームデザイナーの岩谷徹です。
Yeah, that's just a small behind-the-scenes thing. I'm not going to show the whole thing, though, just because no thanks. But yeah, that's if you want to learn any interesting facts of Pac-Man that Mr. Idatois. Yeah, it's just if you want to learn any interesting facts. This is a trailer. This will show you a trailer of Pac Man World Rally, which was a racing game similar to Mario Kart. It's not exactly a sequel to Pac Man World 3. I don't consider it canon, but it's just a racing game of Pac Man World, basically. It has more than just Pac Man characters. It has a few Dig Dug characters. It has Puka, and it has a Frygar, which was the dragon characters. And World Rally was actually the first 3D appearance for Frygar, before Wreck-It Ralph, Disney's Wreck-It Ralph gave it a better 3D appearance. And also within World Rally. Other Namco characters you can play as, at least in the PSP version, would be Mappy, Mr. Driller, and even the Prince from Katamari Damacy. Very good game that is. This thing, which I will show, this is just a timeline. 1980, Pac Man. Toru Iwatani's original Pac Man game that started it all, at that point at least, 25 years ago. By now, it started 41 years ago. Launched during the original arcade boom, Pac Man was so popular it remains one of only 2 games in history to sell 1 million arcade units in the US. Wonka Wonka. 1981. Miss Pac Man. Originally made by students as a modification to the original Pac Man, Namco. Namco was so impressed they officially released it as a follow up to Pac Man. Miss Pac Man is the only other game that has sold more than 1 million arcade units. In fact, it outsold the original Pac Man. I actually do like Miss Pac Man to the original, if only because I feel like she moves faster. Another year later, Super Pac Man, the first sequel developed by the original game's creator Toru Iwatani. Super Pac Man gave Pac Man the ability to fly across the maze and introduced keys to unlock areas of the maze. Yet another year later, Junior Pac Man, why not call it Pac Man Jr.? Junior Pac Man featured large widescreen mazes and 2 additional power pellets. The mazes scrolled horizontally and featured a monster that Pac Man Jr. falls in love with. Around the same year of 1983, Baby Pac Man, a hybrid of pinball and video game. This game features yet another new addition to the family, Baby Pac Man, or just Baby Pac, or Pac Man Baby, whatever. Players had to unlock power pellets on the pinball game before using them against the ghost on the video screen. Mr. and Mrs. Pac Man, a game joining Pac Man and his wife, Mrs. Pac Man, together in a dedicated pinball game. Wow, Pac Man had quite the history in 1983. Professor Pac Man is actually a quiz game. However, only 400 units were made, and the game did not last very long in arcades. Pac and Pal, another Namco-developed sequel. Keys were exchanged for cards for Pac Man to flip, which unlocked new areas of the maze. Pac Man and his pal Chomp Chomp ran around collecting items. In an unusual Pac Man twist, this Pac Man game contained no dots. I am tired of seeing the trademark symbol around Pac Man's name. Ah, yes, the classic Pac-Lan. Pac-Lan helped to introduce the world to sideways scrolling platform adventures. The game featured Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, and Baby Pac-Man, saving the city from being overrun by those pesky ghosts. Then, Pac-Mania, the return of Pac-Man in 3D. Pac-Man had the ability to jump over ghosts. Unfortunately for our hero, some of the ghosts could jump too, and poor Pac-Man had to face up to 8 ghosts on his own. 96. Pac-Man VR. Pac-Man VR allowed players to experience what Pac-Man has gone through all these years in his first-person virtual reality game. With a time limit counting down, Pac-Man lost time when he touched a ghost and gained time back when he ate a ghost. And then finally, 1999, Pac Man World. To celebrate 20 years of Pac-Man, a new 3D adventure was released. A robotic version of Pac-Man called Tonk Man had pac-napped our hero's family, and our yellow buddy trooped off to go and rescue them. 2000, Miss Pac-Man Maze Madness. Miss Pac-Man Maze Madness reintroduced Pac-Man's better half as a lead character once again. Miss Pac-Man was restricted to moving up, down, left, and right, just like the old days. This time, however, over vast mazes that contain hundreds and hundreds of dots. This game also featured a 4-player multiplayer. I played Maze Madness through the Game Boy Advance port. I had quite some fun with it. It was basically a puzzle game, more or less, where you're traversing mazes, collecting dots and fruits. The story of that game was that a witch had captured a princess, and the four lands of Pac-Land, I guess, are under a strange spell, and it was up to Miss Pac-Man to restore it. Where the husband was, where Pac-Man was at the time, who knows? He probably took a vacation after the events of Pac Man World. And speaking of Pac Man World, 2002, Pac Man World 2. Pac Man returned in a brand new 3D platform adventure. The ghosts have been up to their old tricks and have released an uber spooky ghost into Pac Man. Guess who had to save the day? And if I were to try and continue the timeline from there, then would be, I believe it was Pac-Man. Pac-Man. It was the one on the DS that I mentioned. Then Pac Man World 3, then Pac Man World Rally, and then blah blah blah. I'm just going to skip the next several games and get to the point where he made his playable appearance in Smash Bros. Good times. Good times those were. And it's amazing to think that as I do this game, it's been pretty much 7 years since I've done Pac Man World 1 long ago. And it's sad that it's coming to an end. And back to start. This is just here. It's just a blackboard with Tonk Man's design on it. All right, let's do it. We all know how this works. We all know that I'm not the best at classic Pac-Man, but let's give it a shot, though. Oh, the D-pad's not working with me for this, so I'm going to try and use the analog. See if the analog works any better. Give me those cherries. There we go. Let's see how far I can get. Like I said, though, we just know, everyone knows I'm not the best at this. I never was a good Pac-Man player. Oops. Should have turned right. I hate it when they do that. Oh well. Oh wait, no. Yeah, you gotta pause and get out. Yeah, like I said, we all know I'm just not at the best at Pac-Man. That's strange, though. Normally I can do a bit better than that, but I'm just not in the mood to do any better. Alright, well, that's all there is in the museum, believe it or not. So, as I stay within the museum, from here, I will at least try to talk a little bit about the game's development history as best as I can. So, as I Or no, 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 not that, not that. Hold on. I need a few moments here. Okay, and then we do this. Here we go. So, the earliest premise of Pac Man World 3 was originally Pac Man Adventures, which was worked on by Don Bluth. Wonderful animator and director he was. And just to those who do not know who Don Bluth was, he was, well, I shouldn't say was because he's still alive. He is an animator, as I stated, director, artist. He made wonderful movies throughout the 80s and the 90s that we all know. The Secret of Nim, An American Tail, The Land Before Time, All Dogs Go to Heaven, and so on and so forth. Don Bluth also made a few video games himself, Dragon's Lair and Space Ace being the more iconic ones. He did make one for Namco called actually no, I don't think it was one for Namco. But he did make I Ninja. So, Pac-Man Adventures, or at least the earliest version of what it was. Don Bluth has a few concepts and storyboards of them, but I guess he doesn't have all of them. Some of these concepts were eventually used in the final product. Bluth described the game as an interactive Pac-Man game, but he really doesn't have any much more to say about it. Probably because he lost, I guess he might have lost the content, the art, and all the other stuff, and Namco might have lost it as well. But at least some of these concepts that were in the original premise did make it in the final game, like Gogeka and even Irwin. Some of these concepts that you'll see on screen that I will find and bring up are basically like this. This character known as the Shaman from a level place called the Mountain of Morality. And then some villagers. Irwin's Pit was a level which must have been a junkyard of sorts, because these guys are known as the Trash Junkies. Gogeka Central with a construction worker, either the original concept of the worker in the final game or just a random NPC. He does look like a gecko, so that's probably where the Gogeka came from. And then enemies from Gogeka Central, a dragon-looking creature. Yeah, seeing this one, I'm guessing Gogeka was originally a city that had these gecko-like lizards. Kind of creative. More enemies. More gecko lizards. Ah, yes. Dig Dug. In the Caverns of Doom level, we were meant to encounter Dig Dug. I kind of like how he looks. He just looks like a man in his 30s and 40s. He's fallen on hard times. I kind of like Don Bluth's design with him here, though. It makes me wonder, because this is also a part of the original story where I believe the Namco universe as a whole was threatened, and that Pac-Man and other Namco characters had to team up, which explains Dig Dug here. And more importantly, this would have been technically third, but this would be the second attempt to try and get Dig Dug in a Pac-Man game, because he was supposed to appear in the first game, but I'll talk about that part in a bit later. Then we have a concept of a robot enemy and another robot enemy. Some concept of Pac-Man and his expressions, of him being angry. I do kind of like Don Bluth's art style for him. It really, based on the classic look, pretty well. And then we have a creature, or at least from a place called Goen, an amphibious jellyfish-looking creature. And just more concept of these amphibious creatures. A boss fight. Victim of Irwin's elixir. This must have been part of a concept of that Irwin was creating these mutants. Another victim of Irwin's elixir. And yet another. And the level's even called Irwin's Mansion, which again, very different story than what we have in the final. More victims of Irwin's elixir. I'm guessing Irwin... Oh, a bird from the Mountain of Morality. Another robot enemy. Here we go. Huge bird is what he's called. More robots. Inside the temple. This must have been part of a temple level. The entrance to the sacred chamber. The sacred chamber of what, though? The temple split. Another rough sketch of the temple split. The helifator shaft. Must have been an elevator helicopter thing, as you could see. Another concept of the elevator shaft. Bob's Oval Office. We don't know who this Bob is. Must have been a character that probably would have been an NPC or even Irwin's assistant. Who knows? This concept I like because I'm guessing this little guy there is meant to be Bob or even Irwin himself. And he's looking in the mirror and he sees him all buff and strong. This image is a storyboard where the ghosts are protesting for some reason. Get lost, Pac-Man. Pack up, Pac-Man. Pac-Man's no hero. And this is a storyboard of what would have been part of the intro of the game as stated. A small child begins crying. Professor Pac. Good grief. It's a weather bomb. Boom. Baby, off screen. Mommy! Mommy! Pac-Man hears a baby cry for help. And that's pretty much about it. With these concept pictures and storyboards here. Really, that's what the story was meant to be. Was that the story was that Pac-Man would have been attacked by not just the ghost, but Irwin's forces. Whatever Irwin's plan was in that game, in that story, it could have not been good. But in the end, even though it never came to be, it would have been interesting if it did. Because again, Don Bluth is such a great artist and animation master that it would have been something. Honestly, I would love to see if Don Bluth can make a Pac-Man movie. That would be quite a scenario. But, yeah, that is it. That is where I'm going to end it. That will do for this episode of Pac Man World 3. As we come to an end here, and Pac-Man, I know you're all happy, but honestly, Pac-Man, this will be the last time I will ever be seeing you on the channel. Since there was never a proper Pac Man 4 sequel of any kind, this is the last Pac Man game I'm doing on the channel. At least until either they do a remake, a remaster, or a proper Pac Man World 4. I'm not going to do the new Ghostly Adventures because that's just... Nobody liked those games. And it's also because of the new Ghostly Adventures 2 that pretty much put the can of doing another Pac-Man platformer, sadly. And so, again, it's kind of strange that I've been on YouTube for 7 years, and now I'm finally putting the end of a franchise I'd done 7 years ago. And if there's some other interesting things I can share, other interesting unused stuff and such from the game, there was meant to be a store of some kind where Pac-Man can purchase power-ups of sorts. And Pac-Man even has a few unused voice... Like, he's got a lot of voice lines in regards to his situation. Like, he had, like, one-liners for when he won fights or when he got into fights. One-liners for when he picked up power-ups and used them. fact, he even has a line. He has an unused line that regards to what could have been a time power-up that would have slowed enemies down. But in the end, there is no such power-up, but apparently there was meant to have been something like that. I can link a video to all of Pac-Man's voice lines. It has, again, as I stated, used voice lines and unused voice lines. So you'll find a lot of interesting stuff in regards to that. I think that's all I have to say. I don't think I have anything else. Well, actually, there is one more thing. With me mentioning Don Bluth, I was actually hoping I could talk to the man myself and see if I can get any questions in regards, well, answers to my questions in regards to his work on what would have been Pac-Man Adventures, but in the end, there would have been no way I would have been able to get a hold of him, sadly, so it's a sad shame. And, yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all I could say for now. Well, that is it. I hope you all enjoyed my Let's Play of Pac Man World 3. It was a touching come and go for a lot of these things, but all these good things have to come to an end eventually. So, as for what my next game will be, I will say it's on my PS3. So, I can't wait to switch back to my PS3, because the last PS3 game I ever did was, it was Little Big Planet 2, so it will be great to be back on my PS3 again. So, that is it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Pac-Man? You're so happy, but yet oblivious to what I want to say to you. Pac-Man, it was a good run doing your series on the channel. But until they make a proper Pac Man World 4 or remasters or whatever, we're done with Pac-Man on the channel. So, may we meet again sometime, my little yellow friend. I will see you all in the next one.